Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Paul Siegel. We have the pleasure of having Ugo Lopez here today at another Meet the Gurus event. So this is, as you may know, Meet the Gurus is dedicated to technology, business, entertainment, design, and where these fields merge, and particularly we're distributed on social media, podcast formats, and YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple, Google, and a bunch of other places. And today we have the pleasure of meeting Ugo, who's been in the digital forensics area for quite a number of years, and let's get into it in a few minutes. But before we do that, welcome. Thanks, Ugo. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks to you, Paul. Thanks for inviting me to this session. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, no, same here. And we'll get into it. Let's talk a little about yourself. Give us a little context. Tell us a little bit how you, what you do, and how you got into the digital forensics arena.
Well, I'm a computer engineer, and I started working in computer science from my secondary school. I always liked secondary school. When I finished my university, I took an MCA in e-learning and mobile learning. And after that, I met a guy that is called Nanni Bassetti. And this guy was helping another guy, a student, in developing a Linux distribution that was suitable for digital forensics. And its name was Kane. Now this distribution is used by most of the police corps worldwide, and is still managed by Nanni Bassetti. And this friend of mine said, "Hey, come on, Ugo, this is a very new field, very interesting. Why don't you come on board?" And I started doing these things 15 years ago, and I went on because I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So tell me a little about yourself. When you and I first talked, we talked about some of your activities, and I think there's some relationship between your passions, some of your passions in the tennis world. So tell us a little about that. I know it's a jump forward, but I think it's related to analyzing the facts, right?
Yeah. I started playing tennis when I was young, 12, 11 years old, but I realized that playing was not my field. So I moved to umpiring first and then to supervising, and I started umpiring internationally in 1998, and I still work, not umpiring anymore, I work as supervisor. And so when I have spare time, I move around in international tennis arena and supervise international tournaments. I like this very much because I agree with you, it's completely related, because the first thing to do, the first thing that people teach us, older umpires teach us, is get the facts. So we need to get the facts on what's going on during tennis tournament and decide immediately, in a matter of seconds sometimes, what to do next. This is my hobby. More than this, I work as a professor at university in Bari, my hometown in Italy. I teach digital forensics mainly, and network and distributed system security. That is another emerging field. It's all about cloud and company networks. Mm-hmm. And as a, let's say, passion/work, I'm graduating in law. I finished all my exam. I have just my bachelor thesis that will be delivered next April, so in a few weeks. I also founded a small association, not-for-profit association, that is called Blue Lighthouse, that aims to provide certified IT training for its members at no cost or at low cost, depending on the financial condition. But up now, we were able to provide it at no cost for everyone.
That's fantastic. So let's get into digital forensics. And what is it? I mean, it seems like it's a fairly, digital forensics you sort of think is following the footprints, right, of people and things that are happening on the internet. But what, and not on the internet, but anywhere, what are digital forensics broadly speaking?
Well, digital forensics, it's an emerging science, and is changing very quickly. First of all, let's consider that at the beginning, this discipline was called computer forensics because it was intended for getting evidences, digital evidences, only from computers.
Right.
It's very new. Consider that the history of digital forensics starts in the 80s, when FBI started developing computer programs to find digital evidences on computer. They founded a team that was called CART, Computer Analysis and Response Teams, that became operative in 1991, so 30 years ago, not a long time ago. The first digital forensics application is considered to be desktop mountie that was developed by Andrew Rosen, that was a police from Canada. Mm-hmm. So this is really something that is in the past. Now there is a big development, because now it's called digital forensics, because it analyzes whatever is digital. Right. I can share with you a couple of examples of cases that I've personally followed, or that friends of mine have followed. One case was a person that was running close to the seaside, and this person fell down in the sea. And then it appeared again after 2 weeks, 300 kilometers far from the place where this person fell down in the sea. And one thing that they used to realize the exact time that the person fell down in the sea was this. This person, from some surveillance camera, they realized that this person was using earphones. So he was listening to music. He had an iPad. They asked to his mother the exact model, brand, and type of this, let's call iPad or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And then they did the same thing with a fake person. They put this on this fake person. The person went into the water in the exact point this person was supposed to fall down. And then they realized when this electronic device switched off. Yeah. So they knew how long it took to get switched off. And knowing this information, they realized the exact time when the person fell down, because they took this device from the real device. They realized with digital forensics techniques, they chipped off the memory chip. They got information from the memory chip. And so they knew when this was switched off. Knowing how long it took for switching off, from when the person went into the sea, they knew exactly when the person was falling down into the sea. Another situation that happened to me personally was two university professors that were accused to get money from government, public money, to make research while they were doing other things in another place. And this professor came to me and said, I don't have anything to prove my innocence. The only thing I can say is that I was inside the library and I downloaded a technical PDF from this library. Now, this technical PDF was protected with DRM, Adobe DRM, and the DRM let me know who was the person that had downloaded this document, date and time that
precisely,
it was downloaded, library name, because it was registered to the Adobe Lifecycle Manager, that was the program at that time. So we were able to prove the innocence of those two professors.
Very interesting. So these digital footprints can exist obviously today. I would imagine in the world we live in, whether it's Google Earth or surveillance video or your watch passing through. Many of us have digital watches that are connected to our phone. Those are, if they're together, presumably they're speaking to each other. So there's a massive amount of information out there. I mean, I would imagine that is there a standardized structure that the industry has come up with to capture how this information is cataloged, for lack of a better word? Are there some standards that are evolving so that maybe Ugo doesn't do it one way and Paul does it another way, or maybe Italy and Canada and the UK and the US and Mexico are all doing it different ways? Is there an evolving standard for organizing this information, kind of is my question.
Well, let me precise first two things. The first thing is that in the recent days, there were two phenomena that brought a huge amount of data over the internet, of digital footprints and data generally. The first one is social media, because everyone is on social media almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. So this brings a huge amount of data. And the second one is Internet of Things. Yeah. Now, if you go on Amazon, you can find light bulbs that are connected to internet. Yep. Everything is connected to internet. And these again, watches, whatever, glasses. Yes. Now you have 5 or 6 years ago, we were talking about new technologies. Bring your own device to the companies. Now we talk about wear your own device. So you have wearable device. Whatever you use brings information over the internet. That is a digital footprint, actually. So this is a huge amount of things. This has led to huge changes. Just to make an example, consider that another field that is the business intelligence, up to 10 years ago, was lent only for big IT companies because it was supposed to have big digital lakes behind, big digital data, big databases, a lot of infrastructure. In the recent past, some companies such as Microsoft have realized self-service business intelligence. So you can download for free a tool such as Power Business Intelligence, Power BI, and analyze huge amounts of data without any knowledge. This is not something that should be taken into serious consideration. Staying on Power BI, up to, I think, 1 year and a half, Microsoft developed a connector to Facebook. This connector has been deprecated. Why? My idea is that this connector was considered dangerous because with one click and a few minutes, using Microsoft Data Center power to analyze data, you could know exact position of 10 years, 15 years of one person.
Right.
So, yes. Regarding your question, regarding the standards, there are no precise standards because the type of data change every day. Let's consider video surveillance. If you walk 50 meters in one street, you find 20 type of different cameras, 20 type of different surveillance systems. And each one...
And you're just referring to the ones that are, let's say, government authorized, not just the ones that people pick up on their phone. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
When we see events today, it's not just the sort of government authorized, it's people streaming, right? People streaming events.
Exactly. Consider that, for example, for using mobile phones, you are able to understand the type of mobile phone just looking at the container of the video that is taking. So each type, each brand and model of mobile phone uses a different type of video container that most of the times helps you fixing the branded model of your mobile phone. Consider that if you walk on the street, you have a mobile phone, so you leave digital footprints because the mobile phone is connected to cells. And this is a digital footprint. It's not connected to cells, connects to hotspots on the way. Right. You don't have anything on you. You are caught by cameras. And now with artificial intelligence and machine learning, your picture is enough to retrieve information from the internet. Well, so you leave digital evidence you want or you don't.
I always say this to people who are friends who are less technically involved, that, go to myaccount.google.com, and when you're not using Google Maps, for example, or you didn't check into a restaurant, I have shown friends 5-7 years ago where I was, and I was not using a Google Map. So it would tell me that I got up, at a certain time I went to the gym, at a certain time I went to brunch, at a certain time I went for a hike, and all of this is captured. Now, obviously some of it's captured by organizations where you have to get warrants or governmental legal approval to get access to this information. But there are other sources, as you're just describing. There are people who are capturing information all the time, right? So there's certainly the social media platforms, there's search technologies, Bing and others, and there are cloud providers of all sorts. When you authenticate in a website and don't log out, now if you have allowed that company to track your location, you're providing the same access as Google has, I believe, as when you're logged into your Gmail account. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Consider that there is a forensic tool. You're talking about a very interesting thing. A forensic tool that is called the Secure Cube, that you just provide this tool with your Gmail address, username and password. This tool downloads the file from your Gmail account and tracks your movings onto a map, onto Google Earth map. So you just put the username and the password, and you know whatever you did in the last whatever days.
Yeah.
So
or years.
It's just or years, yes, or weeks or months. It depends.
Right.
It's just a couple of clicks. Username, click. Password, click. Done. So everything is automatic.
So in general, from my understanding, and you're the expert in this, so obviously I have no real depth of knowledge in this area other than curiosity. A crime, an event, something that was legally incorrect or whatever, let's put it into the category of a crime, a digital crime of some sort occurs. Then you go look for information, right? Then you go look for the digital footprints. Then you go search for the evidence, the touch points, the digital touch points or footprints. To what extent are you familiar with organizations looking to predict? This is kind of like a Tom Cruise film. The
Minority Report.
The Minority Report, where they're trying to predict crimes. So to what extent do you use data, even anonymized, even made anonymous? To what extent is that being done so an organization takes, let's say a big supermarket chain, knows you've walked in because you logged in with their app. I mean, Amazon is a classic one in certain parts of the country where they have these Amazon to go. They know you are in there. You didn't check in. They know you're in the store. To what extent is it legal today, as far as you know, or the practice, more importantly, to actually predictively use this information for the occurrence of a crime, let's call it, or an activity?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and the answer is articulated in my opinion. First of all, let's say that when we talk about legal, we don't have a definitive answer, because I want to make an example. United States sensitivity is completely different from European sensitivity.
Right.
United States had the 2001 event that changed completely the sensitivity about individual rights versus governmental rights, towards governmental rights.
Correct.
So you all maybe remember the case of the San Bernardino killer. The San Bernardino killer was a terrorist that tried to kill people. He was killed, and FBI found an iPhone on the scene of crime.
Yes, I recall
FBI was not able to decrypt the phone.
Correct.
And asked Apple to do it.
And they refused.
Apple didn't, and they sued Apple to the High Court. Because I don't want to talk about law in the United States because I'm not a lawyer, not even in Italy. So I don't want to talk about the sensitivity about law is
Right.
that if it's something to protect the country, you can do everything. In the same year, 2001, in Europe, there was Convention of Budapest. Convention of Budapest was a European convention where members around Europe, state members around Europe, decided that it was needed for all the European states a balance between the investigation rights and individual rights.
Mm-hmm.
And this balance should be weighted towards individual rights. So as you can see, the sensitivity diverged completely. And this has been shown even in international agreements. In 2001, United States and Europe put in effect an agreement that was called Safe Harbor.
Yes.
Data between United States and Europe could be transferred without any kind of problem because government made this agreement. An Austrian lawyer sued this agreement, and this agreement was cancelled. So in Europe entered GDPR into effect, and there was a second agreement between Europe and United States that was called Privacy Shield. Same lawyer sued the same agreement. And again, this agreement is invalid. So now, for example, we have a problem for transferring data between Europe and the United States, because United States say if government needs to access data, has to access data. Europe say, no, data are personal. You can access data only in specific situations. That needs to be very clear at the beginning. So when we talk about law, we need to face the sensitivity. Probably if you go to Russia, there is another type of sensitivity that is different from Europe and from United States. So this is the first thing. The second thing, again, is about machine learning and artificial intelligence that has to do with predictivity. Now, there is a lot of studies and research about use of artificial intelligence and machine learning inside the digital forensics area for predictive reason. And top researchers I received a couple of days ago an invite to a conference from my university that states, okay, let's stop for a while with research and let's talk about ethics in digital forensics and artificial intelligence. Because this is a problem of law, but this is a problem of ethics as well. We still need to fix the engagement rules, and then we can play. Most of the times we do the other way. First we play, and when we realize that playing is not fair, we change the engagement rules.
Right. No, it's fascinating, and I think that just follow up on the other question. It's obviously it's a universal problem. It's a country problem. I assume it's a state problem. It's a province problem. It's a town problem, right? And obviously, if you think of it in the most beneficent way, people are looking to prevent bad things from happening, right? That's the most beneficent way. And if you think of it in, let's say, still a maybe beneficent way, you can consider it that Google and Facebook and everyone else wants to help you find the right chocolate, the right pasta, the right bicycle, the right car. So there's maybe some positive elements to that, right? So we don't want to log out because, it's not crime. We're not doing anything wrong, but they want to find out how they can sell you more goods, and you actually probably like those goods because they show you things that you have expressed interest in. So there's this line that you obviously begin to walk down, right? When it goes from that to predicting maybe how much you can spend versus someone else. Maybe if you're about to commit a crime, maybe if you walk into an airport. I mean, I've talked to friends about this years ago. Why aren't they doing digital body scans? Maybe as you walk into an airport, certain people are more likely to shoplift. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Some people are more likely to cause more serious crimes. Obviously, people who are coming into an airport with an intent to do something bad or anywhere, maybe they have, case the joint, and maybe the behavior of someone casing the joint, as we say in the United States, I'm not sure that's a word that translates as well into Italian, but they say case the joint, maybe there's behavior that can be picked up and predictively say, this guy, gal, person came in and looked like they were casing the joint. And then therefore, when they either predictively point them out to the police or the authorities, gets into a very murky area, right? We're in a very murky ethical area, as you were pointing out.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, we have a very good expression of this in a very old movie that is called Minority Report. You remember, yes. There was one of the first movies of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise tried to predict crimes with some predictors that were in a big pool or something like that. And at the end, they realized that predicting was not too much. I want to follow your example. Let's imagine that, now we book our holidays on the internet, all of us. Yeah. And now let's imagine that Google knows when I go on holidays. And let's imagine that Google sells this information for myself and for all the people that live around me to thieves. They know when I'm not at home. This is an information that is shared with Google that is dangerous. So Google can help me finding the cheapest solution for go to holiday, right. Because they know when I go to holiday, so they know when the market is cheaper. But there is a leak in my security because Google knows, and Google is not an entity; it's made of people. Right. When I go to holiday and right. can share this kind of information to other people. Right. I don't know if it's the same in the States. In Italy, most of the thieves of the bar class especially check your Facebook status to see if you are at home or not.
Right. Right. And so that this is not a malicious effort necessarily by someone at Google. As you said, it could be malicious, it could be inadvertent, it could be a hacker that came into the system and have very valuable information and frankly on people's holiday plans. Right? And or having, I mean, I find it, and these are kind of a little different analogy. Years ago, got a webcam and whatnot, and I looked online about, how do you set the password? Well, I've forgotten the percentage, but it is a staggering percentage of people who never change the default password on their webcams. And I'm talking about security cameras inside of companies, in parking lots. And so you literally today, if you look up the brand of a webcam that's well known, even in the security field, and you Google it, you can find the real-time security monitoring of all sorts of places. Yeah. Now I'm assuming that is smartly in place the whole field, right? The cybersecurity issue is fundamental to the security of our society.
There is a specific search engines for that. It is called Shodan. Shodan is a search engine for Internet of Things devices, and you can find devices with default password and default configuration. So it's very easy for you to enter these devices. And when I have a subscription to Shodan,
What is the name again? What's the name again?
Shodan. Shodan.
Shodan. I say that to people not to go create crime, but it's an interesting tool. Shodan.
No. The tool is not a crime tool. It's considered, yes, it's used for other purposes. But consider that when I bought this tool, it was a Black Friday, and I paid my lifetime subscription $5.
Right.
Lifetime subscription.
Lifetime subscription to find out where my watch is right now, right? Possibly to find out where is my watch right now, where is Paul right now, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, as we know, even the password, I mean, this whole thing about, this is a total separate discussion on passwords and security, but, you know, the average password is someone's name, upside down, backwards, their kids' names, their birthdays, and all this kind of stuff, obviously because it's easy to remember, right? So all the obvious things that you would think were the gateways of preventing that are the obvious points of entry to those things. So in terms of what's the typical tools that, you know, let's use criminals and let's just say normal citizens also want to use to hide their digital footprints. So they want to walk into the digital snow but not see any of the footprints that are left. What are the typical tools that both good and bad people use to hide them, just in a normal context?
Well, we have a lot of tools. Let me say one thing before this. One thing regarding the good people. There is in the digital forensics area, there is a huge discussion about using, from one side, open source or free software tools, and from another side, commercial tools. The point of the people that use commercial tools is that commercial tools are much quicker than open source and free tools most of the times, because if you pay, most of the times they cost a lot of money. If you pay that money, you need to have a good advantage. So you need you use them because you have a lot of cases in your hands and you need to do them very, very quickly. I prefer personally open source and free software tools. And I explain you why. It's not a matter of costs. It's a matter of scientific method. Scientific method means that if I bring to a court an evidence, I need to prove that this evidence has been collected using scientific method. So can be falsified, can be repeated, should do everything. So imagine, for example, NTFS file system, that is Microsoft file system. Mm-hmm. If I click delete on my keyboard, I know that the file is deleted. Right. But am I 100% sure that if I click delete 1,000 times, the file will be deleted? Well, I guess, because this is the behavior, but I don't know the source code of NTFS. If I do this the same on a Linux file system, I can be 100% sure. And if you disagree with me, take the source code and you can demonstrate that I'm wrong. You can demonstrate that there are specific situations where you click delete on your keyboard and the file doesn't go to the recycle bin.
Right.
So this is why I prefer, generally speaking, the open source tools. Hiding evidences, I mean, good people most of the times do not hide evidences. So this is a tool that is used mainly by the attackers, and it's called anti-forensics. Mm-hmm. So, for example, anti-forensics is used cryptography. I try, instead of hiding evidences, I try to encrypt evidences so they are not visible anymore. Yeah. I try to use, for example, for networking, I use tools such as Tor or proxy servers. So I'm hide over the network. You don't know who I am. Use virtual machines so that you don't know exactly the configuration of the workstation or of the workstations that are performing the attack.
Right.
There are a lot of tools out there that are free. One of them, for example, for attackers, they are supposed to be security tools, but they are used by attackers. One example is Mimikatz. Mimikatz is an open source tool that can be used to perform an escalation of privilege attack inside a Active Directory environment. It uses the default option of caching credentials, Active Directory credentials on local computer, to find local credential and starting escalating. It's an open source tools. It's an open source set of tools that can be used by anyone. There is a specific Linux distribution that is called Metasploit that is used for penetration testing and advanced penetration testings. There is the well-known Kali Linux, or there is the Italian version that is called Parrot, that they are all used to try to find vulnerabilities in systems and hide evidences.
One of the things I want to wrap up with, we're just about the half an hour mark, is something that we sort of were alluding to and discussing, that, fundamentally in sports, we were talking about tennis, in football, soccer, what we call the United States, all sorts of sports have rules. Like, for example, there won't be a replay, right? That the umpires, the referees have made the decision as decisions. Some of them have all sorts of rules, like in basketball, where they will lose a timeout or whatever it is. So a lot of these, the reason I asked this question is it's about the context, right? So it's not just that you need to understand the technologies and tools, but you presumably in some cases need to understand the context. Is this digital forensic application in an area where there's going to be, like you were pointing out, European rules versus American, U.S. rules? Is it going to be in a context where certain things aren't tracked because they refuse because of the culture, the history of the game, let's say in sports, or the sector that they don't do it? So we don't have really standards in that regard, do we? We still have a very, what we call balkanized, very broken up field where there's certain things that are applicable in Europe and the United States and Asia, etc., and in industries and in sectors, right? So there's still a very evolving field, isn't that right?
Yeah, this is very complex. The first thing I want to say that even among digital forensics consultants, there are different sensitivities. And so there are different definitions of what a digital forensics consultant is. The one I like is that the digital forensics has three souls. The first one is a computer expert. The second one is a law expert. And the third one is an investigator. Because all of these three aspects converge together in one person for digital forensics. In this case, it depends on the law most of the times, what you can do and what you can't. I make an example. Let's imagine that I stole an apple from a shop. May I close the shop for 1 year to do investigations? So there is a principle, at least for Italian laws, Italian standards, of proportionality. Mm-hmm. We say that the truth does not exist, but exists the low truth that is different most of the time, converges to the truth, mm-hmm. but most of the times doesn't. It's not the same thing. Let's imagine that I investigate over this person that maybe has stolen one apple for 10 years. May I send this person to jail after 10 years that he has stolen one apple and for 10 years he didn't do anything bad more? No, because there is the government has prescription. That is a time after which the government is not interested anymore in prosecuting. And again, for example, the problem in Europe is about interceptors. I want to know what you're telling over your phone. May I do it? Mm-hmm. It depends. If you are suspected of being a terrorist, yes. If you are suspecting of looking at what your wife is doing, you can't. Because there is a principle of proportionality. You cannot reduce individual rights unless you have a very, very good reason. Mm-hmm. And this is the limit. And as I was saying before, this is a limit for ethics before and for law after, because we need to remember that law is an application, a codification of ethics. So if we don't have the ethics problem, we cannot solve it with laws, national or international.
I really appreciate your time. It's been very informative. You've been very detailed, and I really want to take this up again with you because I think the field is touches so many different areas of science, computing, society, law, regulations, and it's something that we're not going to ever see a diminution in. It's going to be explosive because of the issues we've discussed. So thank you, Ugo Lopez, for, again, a wonderful time. I just want to wrap up by saying to everyone, don't forget to follow us on the various podcast channels, whether it's Apple, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and look for courses that Ugo has coming up on our platform. I think you're going to learn a lot, and as is shown here. Thanks again, Ugo.